Creating this Iman Gadzhi animation has never been easy, and I'm going to show you how to do it in this step-by-step tutorial in 15 minutes. Now let's jump to After Effects.
So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new composition. I'm going to name this 00_ Iman Gadzhi tutorial clean. Just for this tutorial, I'm going to right click and create a new solid, naming this background, and then I am going to add a new gradient wrap. I'm going to make this slightly off gray, and I'm going to make not fully black but slightly off gray, and then I'm going to add a noise texture just to kind of make it a little bit greener. Let's just make it about maybe 3% for now, just to give it a bit of a depth. And I'm gonna duplicate this. I'm gonna delete all of the settings. I'm gonna change this and name this grid. So right now we're gonna create a grid effect in this composition, dragging and dropping a grid effect. I'm gonna make this a order of 1. Now that we've made that in a border of 1, I'm going to reduce the corners and make this a little bit more squarish looking. So maybe about this size, and decrease height like maybe around here. So right now, as you can tell, it looks pretty nice. So now I'm going to click this and say I'm going to hit Command-Shift-C and pre-compose this as a grid, all objects. Now with this grid effect, I am going to mask the edges just for a little bit more variation so it doesn't look too sharp. So right now this is set to subtract, and I'm gonna make this about 250 pixels. I think that looks quite alright. Maybe move this a little bit here more just to have a bit more variation, and then I'm gonna duplicate this piece of mask. Just duplicated it, double click it. I'm gonna rotate it, and I'm gonna put it around here just so you have a bit more variation. And I think this one you want to like bring it down a little bit more. That looks nice, but the only issue right now is that the grid is looking a little bit too sharp. So I'm just going into the grid effect and I am decreasing it to about 50% opacity. So by hitting tab, I go back into the pre-comp just now, and I think right now we have a really nice background. So just with this background effect, I'm selecting everything, hitting Command-Shift-C again to pre-compose, and I'm gonna say background grid final. Now that I have the background, I'm going to drag in a footage that I'm going to do some rotoscoping. So I have a footage over here. I'm just dragging it down in the timeline. So this is the footage. If I basically go inside, it's a layer of a footage and a audio separated out as well. So with this footage over here, I'm just going to double click this layer over here, go into the rotoscope brush over here on the toolbar, and select your object. You want to make sure that you're on the first keyframe of the timeline that you want to start rotoscoping. So basically what that does, it tells After Effects that I want you to start rotoscoping from this section over here. Now that I've done the selection, what you want to do is do a bit of cleanup, because you can actually see the background being added in as well. So hold down Option on the keyboard and remove the objects that you don't want. So right now I'm removing the backdrop of the chair with a little bit at the table, just doing some bits of cleanup. So I think this part here you don't need. I think this part of the chair you don't need. A bit over here. I think I'm gonna add a bit of this section here of my hair. Okay, and also over here on the chest, you can actually see that the logo here is being removed. So I'm just adding that back in by selecting. Just removing this a bit. Okay, I think that looks pretty nice. So what you want to do, hit spacebar on the keyboard. Now what that does, it actually tells After Effects to actually start rendering and start rotoscoping based on the frame that it was just set previously. I know it looks like it's not moving, but actually if you look closely over here at the bottom here, you can actually see that it's being highlighted green. What it does tell you is that it's actually calculating. So just from the get-go, I would say it's 90% there. It's not 100%. Definitely like you want to add in some more keyframes. So first things first, I can actually see that the layer here of my ear is not added in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna zoom in and just gonna add it back in into the frame. Clean up a little bit, fill up a little bit, and then hit spacebar again. So basically how Rotobrush works is that it's like painting, and every single time in the timeline you add a bit of adjustments, it's gonna recalculate again and it's gonna predetermine where the mask of your object is. So I think this looks pretty okay. It looks pretty decent. The only thing is that the bottom part here, my arm on the right hand side here, is being removed. But I think for this, we don't want to just keep adding it in. I think I can kind of just cheat this out by masking this part out. So what I mean by that is that if you look at this over here and you go back out into the composition, you can actually see that I'm already being masked out, right? It looks pretty decent, pretty okay. Just for this tutorial, you can go ahead, go deeper into the cleanup of the footage on your own. But just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to show you what I mean. So the bottom over here, I'm just going to do a bit of cleanup. I'm duplicating this layer. I'm removing the Rotobrush and I'm doing a mask. So sometimes in visual effects, you want to do a bit of cheating and clean up on the footage, and you don't really have to like do the big chunk of calculation again. So actually over here, you see we just added that part in here that was missing. As for the edges of myself over here on the sides, I think this looks pretty decent and pretty okay. If you want to kind of refine the edges, you can. Like you can go down to refine edge tool here on Rotobrush and kind of just make the edges more clean, but I'm not going to do that for this tutorial. But yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Cool. I think the next thing what we want to do is refine the edges. So for that technique over there, I'm going to add a matte choker onto the layer. So I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit and increase the softness to like maybe I'm here. I think that looks okay. Now I'm going back out into the layer. So as you can tell, it looks pretty decent. Not perfect, but definitely you can do some cleanup on your own. Let's add in all the text and animation. I'm just gonna put text here that says agency. Just gonna put here, duplicating this, right? Service, because I'm trying to explain that this agency model is a service. And then I'm gonna draw a piece of line using a shape layer, pen tool over here. Just gonna draw this on here. Instead of it being a fill, I'm gonna add a stroke, maybe 5 pixels, and then open up this, and the shape and the stroke, you want to add a dash. So that looks pretty okay, but I think the stroke, we can make it a little bit bigger, maybe 7, and the dash, make it a little bit bigger, like maybe 50. All right, that looks perfect. So just from here, I'm going to hit Y on the keyboard and I'm gonna move the anchor point to the middle of it. And now I'm going to add a piece of polygon shape. I'm gonna put this at a size at 0.3, so it becomes a triangle. So now if you look at this, it looks like this. I'm gonna add a fill. I'm gonna remove the stroke. So with this size now, doing the same thing, moving the anchor point. I'm gonna double click this and bring it down like we do with the small that will update it. This. All right, that looks nice. Okay, perfect. So now with this, I'm gonna add an animation. So we are going to add a layer and go on the trim paths. So in the trim path section, you are going to animate the end. So what this does is it animates the stroke along the path. So I'm gonna go all the way here down to the first here at 0 and add it at 0, and 1 second I'm gonna add all the way in the end, selecting everything in function F9 for a bit of easy ease. And as this is being animated in, I want this thing to come in. This is the, just move the sphere again. This is the piece of triangle. So maybe about here, it fades in. So it comes in around here. It's from 0 to 100. So now if you play that back, looks okay, looks decent. So now with this, I'm gonna parent the triangle to the line, and now I'm gonna duplicate this whole thing and I'm gonna rotate it at 180 degrees and bring all of this down. Let's say we bring it all the way down to here. So now it looks like as though you have a cycle effect. And with this text animation, I'm going to do some bit of animation. So like, let's say it animates for about 15 frames. Hit P on the keyboard and I'm going to animate them to come in from the side. So just moving it at the side. That I'm going to hit function F9 and going to push the curves. I think that looks okay. And just for that little bit of touch, I'm going to right click and say I'm going to make a new adjustment layer, naming this posterized time, and I'm going to add the posterized time effect. With this, I'm going to drop the frames down to about 12 So Iman Gadzhi has that bit of style where the frames, like, it looks a little bit like stop motion. So that's how it looks like. Now the only thing is the background. So the backdrop here is already here with the rotoscope. So what you want is you want to animate the backdrop coming in. So let's say we animate the backdrop coming in from here all the way down like this. But as this thing is coming in, you actually want the footage of the original. So before that, I'm going to just push this curves. Again, I'm going to... So this is the rotoscope one, right? You want the actual footage of him. So I'm just going to double click inside, copy the original footage, paste it outside. This time around, I'm going to remove the Rotobrush and the matte choker. So you have the footage of this. As you can tell, footage of the backdrop comes in. Now that is looking a little bit too fast. So I'm just going to offset the animation. So maybe we offset the text and the shape and the backdrop to about 10 frames. So at 10 frames, the backdrop comes in, and then 20 frames later, then the text comes in. So if we preview that, looks like that. Perfect. Okay, now the last thing we need to do is actually add some camera. So with that, I'm just going to select all of the objects over here. I'm just gonna, except for the post-trash time, I'm gonna make this all 3D layer, and then I'm gonna add a new camera, a one-node camera. So with this camera here, I can press C on the keyboard and say I'm gonna move this and move it all the way down. So how we're gonna do that is that as I'm talking here and the animation stays here for a bit, I'm going to move the camera from here, position on the keyboard, move down by 3 seconds. I'm gonna move it down here. I just basically press C to toggle the camera movement, and just like this, I can move the camera all the way down. So as the camera goes down, what you want to do is you want to add a new object for your frame. So you can basically, like what I just did in the example earlier. So as the camera goes down is a new entire scene. I'm just going to add a text here that says data. So basically over here, you can add more animations if you want. I'm just creating this as an example. I'm moving this as a 3D layer. The object is basically at the top, so I'm just going to bring it all the way back down. So your graphics data here, you can kind of just do your own pie charts. You can do your own text animation if you want. So the only thing we need to do right now is basically extend the backdrop. So to do that, I'm going to go to the background grid and going to add a piece of layer that says motion tile. So with this motion tile, I'm gonna extend the backdrop by increasing the output height and hit mirror edges. Now what that does is that it basically extends the top and the bottom of your object so that it looks like as though the backdrop is being extended. So with this animation here, you can kind of just do the same thing that we did earlier. We can kind of just add shape layers and lines. We can add our own graphics and numbers. The only issue here is that when you extend the top layer over here, this thing, when this frame comes in, as you can tell, the backdrop is seen over here as well. So we need to decrease the settings over here as well. So what I'm gonna do is, as the backdrop is being animated in here, you only want the output to start animating. So which means over here, I need to keyframe this back to its original, which is 100. And then so that by the time it comes here, you see the backdrop being extended. I'll show you what I mean. So it's preferable previously. So now it looks like this. See, the backdrop is not extended yet. It comes in and then the backdrop is extended, and then this animation. Then as the camera goes up, you see your next scene with the graphics data over here. So with this, you can kind of just do the same thing like we did earlier. We add a bit of a shape layer over here. You can kind of just like add more data. So like if I were to do this and duplicate this and maybe just rotate it if I wanted to, I can bring this all the way down some more. So let's say I bring this, let's say we bring it all the way down here. So now it's down like this, but just want to bring this down all the way until we see the next frame. The graphics data, that's working a little bit too fast. I'm just gonna take keyframes up a bit more, about 4 seconds. Then I'm gonna add a bit of F9. I think that it's okay. It looks like as though it's growing, but because this animation is being too fast, I'm just gonna drag it out a bit more. So now it looks like as though the camera is moving, and then the line goes down to your next scene. All right, let's just play that back again. Perfect. I hope you guys like this tutorial. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this tutorial or if you have any questions about After Effects. So with this simple technique, as you can see over here, I added my own set of graphics, I added my own set of animation. So you can kind of just duplicate and replicate the techniques that I just taught you over here, add your own numbers and your own data. And if you want to push that little bit of animation, add like textures. So I added a bit of like animated textures in the background. So as you can see here, it has a little bit of like flicker effect. But overall, this technique is a very simple technique to replicate for Iman Gadzhi. And I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know down in the comments. Please like and subscribe. And until then, keep making awesome shit.